There we go. Hi, Catch-Up Crew.
Hi, Catch-Up Crew.
Yeah, I know Andretta's coming. I am not sure about Bracken and Rory. I know they were doing something this afternoon.
They've joined, but they haven't kind of joined.
Okay, cool. So they are getting set up, I assume. Hello, secret Bracken and Rory. I feel like Frankie whenever I do that. Hello, not secret Bracken
I
and Rory.
knew they were playing with the puppy and ignoring us. I knew it.
How did you know it?
I was just about to say they're playing with the puppy and ignoring us. And I was spot on.
Definitely not ignoring you.
We were playing with the puppy and creepily spying on you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's even better.
But look, Luna has her cone off. She's like,
she's got a cone off.
Faced into all sorts of terrible
She's
places.
been headbutting all sorts of soft furnishings.
Yeah.
Oh my god, she looks so cute.
Look at this dumb twink.
Look at her.
She's a very cute dumb twig, and I love her. Twink, and I love her.
She's awesome. Oh, apparently she hasn't eaten yet, so
okay.
we should feed her.
Yes. Should I bring some biscuits in for her here? Or do you want?
Feed the twink. Feed the
Feed
twink.
the
Hi, Andy.
Okay. Do you want to hold on to it while I'll go get a bowl of something for her?
Hi.
Just dry food.
Hi.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
She's a dog. She will assure you she's never been fed in her life 5 minutes after eating.
I mean, I think that's just all pets in general.
Certainly many.
And some humans.
Mm-hmm.
I say as I ate lunch like a couple hours ago, and I'm like, I can make a salad because I have strawberries and really nice tofu feta to eat.
Nice.
Just like looked in my fridge and saw strawberries, mint, and feta all beside each other and was like, this is the only thing I should be doing with my life. How's your day, Duncan?
It wasn't too bad. I was supposed to be interviewing a couple of contractors, but they both skipped their interview, so I got some quiet time to catch up on things while I was sat in a Zoom room waiting for them to appear, which was nice.
It's nice to be able to use that time to actually do stuff that you might not be doing otherwise.
Yeah. And then I made progress on the van this evening.
Yeah.
Visible, photographable progress. It wasn't a lot of progress, but, you know, every little helps.
Totally. I feel like getting the little bit done for me is a gateway to getting more progress done. Like that bit of motivation gets me hooked.
Yeah.
Thank you, dopamine.
A wild Andy appears. Rah.
Hello. A wild puppy is there.
The wild
I
puppy
was
had
talking
run
to
away too.
Alex the other day about dogs and stuff, and I was like, you know, if we lived somewhere pet friendly, maybe we could just do what Bracken and Rory do and find someone with a dog to loan us for a day. Seems ideal.
So cute.
Oh, Flufferino. Aww. You folks are so cute. Ooh. What does techno sex taste like?
Passion fruit.
What is that? Very big deal.
Very big chomp.
Ah.
Which actually, it looks
I have a
delicious.
peanut butter chocolate stout from the same brand.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
This is like caramel and chocolate. Like,
Ooh.
Shit,
oh,
that's
shit.
good.
Yeah, no, that's mad good. You wanna try?
You're mad good.
Oh, you.
Most of the caramel is in the smell.
Mm.
Oh no, I'm getting some taste now.
Yeah.
Nom, 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 nom. That's fascinating.
Fascinating. Andy, what are you eating?
A muffin with some ice cream. I figure I would appease them vocal cords for tonight.
Ice cream helps, does it? I like it. It's all the
Not
men
sure
are
if
real.
it helps or if the cold numbs, but you know.
I was mildly amused when they joined that Doro was camouflaged against the sofa.
Oh yeah. So, just other bit of news. So, is it okay if I talk about your photos?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bracken got back the photos that Marika took for like the photo shoot for the massage business, and there's this one incredible one where Bracken's got the like dungarees with the kind of floral pattern, like leaves and stuff.
I
But they're
love
like quite
those.
large.
Mhm.
Right. So like the color ones look great, obviously. But there's a particular black and white shot of Bracken like walking through like a meadow or like a path in the woods, where because it's stripped out the color, like the foliage blends seamlessly with like the print on Bracken's dungarees, so it looks like they're just like emerging out of the forest like a fucking dryad.
That's amazing.
Wild.
Love that. That's going to be your homepage photo, right?
It's so good.
It has to
Yeah.
be.
I'm very, very impressed with Marika.
Yeah.
She's done some amazing work. The pictures look fantastic. I would wholeheartedly recommend booking an appointment with Marika for like having a wee photo shoot. She does boudoir stuff, but she also does like you hanging out if you want pictures of yourself, which look just like quite nice and quite professional looking for professional stuff, or just for like you.
Apparently we get a discount on like a couple shoot now. So what I've suggested is we like do one in our like Christmas jumpers, doing like that kind of lovers like embrace thing, but with like no
The lateral
swabs.
flow test
Yeah.
swabs.
I love it. Yeah.
So romantic.
What is love but getting tested for viruses, I guess.
Definitely is in poly, yeah.
You gotta take a picture with you sticking a swab up each other's noses though.
I suggested it and Bracken was like, no, that's a hard limit.
That feels like something very intimate to send to my dad, to be honest.
You don't have to send it to him. It can just be for you, you know. Or for our
Yeah.
amusement.
We get it framed above our bed.
Oh God.
No, wait, painted in like an airbrush style.
On
like,
the ceiling.
on velvet.
Make a stencil of it and have it on your dining room table.
Oh my
That's
God.
That's a
Or
pounder.
Dining room? What the fuck is a dining room?
Wait, no.
All right, kitchen table. Sorry, I forget that I grew up in North America where every home is big and every table that people eat at is technically a dining table.
Yeah.
Well, no, I like this. Okay, no, you're right. Dining room fresco.
Dining room fresco.
Framed by like red drapes with
By
like
the
gold
drapes
brocade.
with the gold brocade. It's done.
Hello.
Malcolm!
Hello.
Wait, myself and Ruth just finished catching up.
Yay.
Malcolm comes to us. Malcolm White comes to us at the turning of the tide.
Look for me to the east.
So Malcolm, for those of us who were super spacey and only really caught about half of yesterday's session and then got halfway through catching up, can you help me remember things? What happened at the very end yesterday?
Mr. Sir Something Mabob comes along to the pub owner and says, "I'll buy it for 800,000 guineas."
Units of measurement.
Nectar points.
And the guy's like, "Oh, that's a lot of money, but what would I do with money? I would like repair the pub. Oh wait, I wouldn't own the pub, but the pub makes people happy. No thanks, mate." And the guy was like, "I always get my way," and gave him a little slap round the face with his cock.
Wait, what?
In fairness, he didn't do that.
So dozed off towards the end.
Yeah. That's what it was implied as, like a You know, I will.
Yeah, he just fucked off.
It's basically welcome to Night Vale if everyone drinks tea and says "Oi, oi, governor" a lot, right?
Yep. All right, I'm going to nip to Lou. If you do have to start, fine, but I'll be back in a minute.
You know, we're super strict now that Frankie's not reading. I think that we've only gotten more strict with time.
Oh yeah, surely. We got to start on the dot, else it's the end of the world.
The dot.
The singular dot.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, hey,
Hi.
how are you settling in?
Oh, really nicely, thank you. Yeah, and I meant to say thanks so much for all the story times already. I had to sneak off on Tuesday, but I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'm glad you did.
Hey, more people to indoctrinate into the cult of the stories, and we don't even have Frankie to do it for us.
Oh my god. Oh. I've been reading The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. I was considering maybe doing that for story time later on, but I only have Thursdays available. So I'll talk to Bina and see what she says. But it's so good. It's so fucking good. And there are so many terrible men in it. Just awful.
Hey, wait, because
So-
Bina's
so
been
would you be,
uploading and Bina and I have been organizing. Does this mean that we get to just make these decisions? Is that
Yeah.
how that works? Oh,
Um,
fuck yeah. Okay, that's great. If Bina's on board, I'm on board.
So if you only have Thursdays, does that mean an ongoing series of petticoats and piracy on Thursdays?
Possibly.
Yay!
Would that be okay? I feel like it's
I mean, yar.
very good, very good. How droll. Yeah, I don't know, because it seems like I don't want to like monopolize all of the week just because we have this one thing that happens on Thursday each week. You know what I mean?
I think that so long as like if somebody else is like, I have something that I really want to read for 3 days in a row, if we just get them to check with you if you're cool with missing a Thursday, like I think that's fine, so long as we're a 3-day length story, you know?
Yeah, okay.
I think we can make it so that that doesn't happen.
Andy, I think it's that time, Andy.
Okay, let me get on a better network. Hello.
Hello.
Right, I had to swap networks because I think one of them gets a little bit dodgy and my hotspot works a bit better. Is it that time? Okay then. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall continue with another bit of old history. 1556, the Tower of Knowledge. Here in the tall tower in the grounds of Rotherweird Manor, Sir Henry Grassel works, grinding glass and observing the heavens. Here too, in daytime, a swineherd admits 2 children. These be the 2 with gifts, he says. They are peasant stock, all earth, dirt, and feral looks, born together, ever together, added the swineherd. What gifts? The lad finds and names all that moves. He knows the differences between everything living, and she brings them alive with her knife. Sir Henry smiles. I know she does. The mysterious carvings on the dead plum tree at the edge of the manor gardens have long puzzled him. Butterflies, bees, animals, and insects, all vital and painstaking. One moonlit night, he has caught them at work, the boy and the girl, she with her knife, he investigating every cranny in the bark for signs of life. They live by the pig pens. Their mother is dead and their father's a salt. By their best estimate, they are 10 years old. He gives them new names, Hieronymus and Morval Seer, which he announces by placing a hand on each head as if baptizing them. Seer means a person who sees more than is visible. Sir Henry likes outlandish names, names from his travels. Now you will live with me. 2 idyllic years follow, filled with learning, security, and physical well-being. Sir Henry, a polymath and widower with no surviving children, invests in them his considerable emotional and intellectual reserves. Reading, fed, and watched. Clothed, fed, and washed, they are transformed in appearance too. Notebooks fill. Morval's knife cuts wood blocks and sharpens quills. At 14, she had mastered ink making, using plant sap for fluidity of line. Sir Henry brings back tiny quantities of lapis and cochineal. The 2 children are bound by complementary talents as well as the kinship and shared adversity. His knack for questioning the natural world, focused but practical, and her instinctive gift for reproducing the appearance of things, eye to hand, every vein on an insect's wing, every line on a human face. Remembering their Copernicus, they see themselves as twin moons bound by a common sun, Sir Henry Grassel. 1558, the Rotherweird Valley. Hieronymus and Morval Seer are in the orchard with Sir Henry studying the structure of flowers, where the fruit will grow, how, and why. Down the hill juthers a cart with high awnings, an ordinary sight, but for the outrider, scabbard bouncing on the thigh, fine saddle, the velvet cap, the air of authority. New friends, cries Sir Henry, but for once he will be wrong. They stand in the great hall, 10 children in a line, every one of them 12 years of age. The old man with the kindly face open his arms. I am Sir Henry Grassel, and this is Rotherweird Manor, my home, and now yours. You were in peril, but are no more. For reasons that are forgivable, your queen mistrusts you, so do not stray beyond this island. You will have more than enough to occupy you here, doing justice to your abundant talents. Of the 10, only Malise willfully mistranslates the invitation. I will indulge my talents, he muses, by taking your house, your island, and your power. He watches the captain of the escort, Sir Robert Oxenbridge, watching them, feeling relief that he will be leaving. Grassel's face is kindly, but weak. Oxenbridge is hardened, a soldier's look. 2 children walk in, a boy and a girl, their own age. Meet Hieronymus and Morval Seer, born in this valley the time that you were born, and with equal gifts to your own, says Sir Henry. Malise feels jealousy in the air from the other girls and a corresponding interest from the boys. The girl has an astonishing beauty and innocence too, Eve in the garden. He feels a new kind of desire for a new kind of power. The effect of her brother on the new arrivals is less pronounced. He appears studious to the point of remoteness. March 1559, London. Geryon Winter tires of London, and London tires of him. The vigilance of the new Queen's Council inhibits his researches into the darker reaches of knowledge. The right books are elusive, and spies insinuate themselves into the city society like worms in cheese. Strangers peer in his windows. Servants talk more than they should. The 5th son of a clergyman, the corruption of Winter's learning stems not from exposure to vice, but to an excessive preaching of virtue. Listening to his father's interminable services and sermons, he concluded in childhood that gods are created by man to inspire in life and to comfort in death. But where are the new gods? Isn't it time to start again? And what might the recipe be? He isolates the most potent elements in his father's belief. Prophecy, a code of behavior, the passion and resurrection. The rest he finds insipid. He tracks down Latin translations of Greek texts and then learns Greek himself and rifles these works for their invented deities and the fabulous stories that give them permanence. He is drawn to the monstrous, gorgons, furies, and three-headed dogs, and how these classical gods meddle in the affairs of men, and vice versa. But there is more to the young Winter's life than hunting down mythologies. He tests, dissects, and explores. He is a scientist focusing on the destructive forces, from gunpowder to untraceable poisons. An extravagant ambition takes shape. He will create a new god, even gods, with the sinew and scientific reality to survive and flourish. He does not know how, but believes this to be his destiny. For the present, however, has more mundane challenges. There is the issue of servants. They cook and clean, but are dumb souls. He craves an intellect to share the burden of his research. He trawls prisons and courts, and after many months is rewarded at the Middlesex Assize. It is the charge that catches his eye: theft of a book by night, a miscellany of peculiar weapons, and the defendant's demeanor. The squat, ugly young man fences with the visiting judge, showing more wit than sense. It is a serious business to assail a man's house in the early hours. It is a serious business to leave a book shrouded in dust. Not this book, perhaps. Weapons are a subject for study. Wars are won by them. The judge can tell from the accused's clothes that the upstart has more learning than money. The sentence has limits. First offense, and a man who can read, which gives him what the poor do not receive, the benefits of clergy. Yet judges have a knack for finding a way. Brand him in the brawn of the thumb, unless he pays 10 shillings within the week. Your own 10 shillings, mind. He addresses this last to the defendant. Winter stipulates his terms for a retainer in the court cells. The young man accepts, and Winter pays the fine. He renames him, an act of ownership, Calx Bull. Calx for the chalky whiteness of his skin, Bull for his corpulent torso. Bull prefers to cook and clean himself rather than have other servants between him and his new master. At night, they research together the location of tumuli, burial mounds in the English countryside, from Saxon round barrows to later more sophisticated sites. They identify the Rotherweird Valley as especially rich in these untapped sources of hidden treasure. Winter even gains access to the Winchester copy of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle in its present home at Canterbury. It makes interesting reading. He sells up his London residence in favour of a manageable house near Hoy, a village above the Rotherweird escarpment. The mouse-haired Mrs. Winter has no say, as this is not in her husband's book a domestic matter. Bull's surliness soon dissipates. He wears the gratitude of a rescued dog. So here is Winter, this cold but clear February afternoon, watching Bull dig beneath the rim of a semicircular prominence on the western side of the Rotherweird Valley. Their labours have yielded a silver spoon and a hollow torque, damaged but in fine gold. Winter, seeing the vestiges of an old road entering the hollow below them, descends the steep slope and makes a most unexpected discovery. Set in the ground is a white tile, incised with a tiny flower. The palm of his hand prickles as he holds it close. "Stand there," he says to Bull, who does so, and promptly disappears. A magical door. Wherever it leads, destiny has handed him a base ingredient for creating his new god, a mystery to wonder at. He peers at the tile. The exquisite workmanship suggests reverence and confirms that someone has entered and safely returned. Is the tile itself the door, or does it mark a deeper gateway? Hell or paradise? He closes his eyes and follows his servant in. Hell and paradise both lie beyond the tile, it turns out. He and Bull explore, map, and analyze, but only the open ground, and only in daylight. It is a fantastical but dangerous place. Winter takes a close interest in the locals now. Someone else must know this secret. He visits the tavern in Hoy for the chance of stray intelligence, and again destiny is kind. The carter talks to a gardener who talks to a farmer who confides in a tinker who speaks loosely. A wagon of children, finely dressed, was unloaded last year at Rotherweird Manor, and Sir Henry Grassel has turned schoolmaster in his dotage. They reputedly have unusual talents. Winter smells opportunity. He gleans what he can of Sir Henry, kind and therefore vulnerable, knowledgeable and therefore easy to lure. He crafts a letter to fit. Sir Henry finds Winter's house pleasing, though no manner. The walls are panelled with carved oak. His host has a library and well-turned furniture. Winter shows his knowledge without flaunting it. Mrs. Winter says little, but is considerate and kind. She compliments him on his riding and his horse. Yet Sir Henry feels on edge. The servant has a predatory menace. Winter's manners are too polished, over-perfect, like a diplomat striving for a treaty. In the library, several shelves have their books double-banked. Forbidden texts behind, or just too little space? At the end of a fine lunch, in terms of food and drink at least, Winter dismisses his servant and his wife. He eases into the subject, but Sir Henry senses a well-worked design. Again, the diplomatic aim. Winter slices 2 peaches with a silver knife. I have designed a new dwelling. I call it an ice house. It will keep ripe fruit to the spring. We have a pond shallow enough to freeze solid. Talking of early fruit, you teach, I understand. Ripeness in spring, a code for his prodigies, all innuendo and nothing express. Sir Henry is on his guard. I like to pass on what I will shortly lose, replies Sir Henry, who favors an epigram to block a probing thrust. His hair curls silver as wire. His hands are nobbled with veins and stippled with freckles, and yet the face harnesses vitality. He is in his early 60s, Winter guesses, but not to be underestimated. Such a resource, Winter whispers, as if to convey his ability to keep a secret. An ill-chosen word, Sir Henry thinks, wearying of the game. The light fades. I must take leave of your excellent hospitality. Sir Henry is glad to have kept his cards close. As he steadies his horse, a breeze ruffles the hedge. Faces appear and disappear in the shaking leaves, faintly demonic, some with cheeks puffed out, some drawn in. Mr. Bolstow-Peary, smiles Winter. Incubi and succubi, adds the servant with a grin, only to earn a glare of rebuke from his master. This is not the desired impression. Sir Henry is pleased to reach the bridge to Rotherweird Island and home. February. Tea break. One. Slickstone's discovery. Tonight we go exploring, you and I, said Sir Vernal, handing the boy a coat and a notebook. What do I do? The boy was broken in. He desperately wanted to please. You note the streets, you write them down. The actress watched. She had never felt so superfluous. At least in her other roles for Sir Vernal, she had been permitted to speak. Make your own part, said her inner thespian voice. Improvise. Go to bed, added Sir Vernal, dismissing her from the room. They made an incongruous pair, the ramrod straight old man and the slouching boy with a lantern. Between ragged clouds, stars shone brilliantly. A thin film of frost added sparkle to pavements, roofs, and cobblestones. They talked in whispers. Give me the names, Rodney. On your right, Coracle Run. On your left, Blue Stone Alley. Sir Veronal closed his eyes from time to time, as if striving to find significance in these outlandish titles. The boy sensed his master's frustration. They hurried on. "Escutcheon Place," said Rodney. Again it appeared to mean nothing. Then, quite suddenly, Sir Veronal froze, a hound catching a wisp of scent. "What?" interjected the boy. "Quiet," hissed Sir Veronal. "Absolute quiet." Foot, then left. This way, and not a sound. With a new alacrity, Sir Veronal hurried through side alleys and streets, the boy struggling to keep pace until they emerged into one of the darker sections of the Golden Mean. Shop signs swung in the wind. Sir Veronal stopped. "Lantern." They peered in the window at an array of strange shapes and objects. "Torch." The pencil beam swept to and fro like a searchlight. Stuffed animals, a Zulu shield, stools, chairs, and carved walking sticks appeared and disappeared. Sir Veronal pointed. "There," he yelped. "Just stones," said the boy, now bored. "Such colors. I know them. I definitely know them." Sir Veronal spoke with an intensity that energized the boy. The stones must be rare and valuable to have this effect. "I'll smash the window. Easy, easy." Sir Veronal struck the boy on the cheek with the flat of his hand. "You wait for orders. You don't suggest them." For once in his life, the boy did not retaliate. "What's the number of this shop?" The boy ran both ways, worked it out. 22, the Golden Mean, baubles and relics." "Relics," Sir Veronal savored the word. "Maybe, just maybe. Now, home." For appearances, the actress's bedroom had a connecting door to Sir Veronal's, but he had never used it, and she had never been tempted. Money and power might be a recipe for sex appeal, but not on foundations this glacial. Her lack of attachment mattered to Sir Veronal, not because it might make her available to him, but because other intimates might lure her into indiscretion. She had attended business dinners, receptions, and contract signings as Lady Slickstone. She had talked art, superficial politics, and social niceties with his guests, but never probed. She always ensured she looked the part she played, the ambassador's wife, which was a dull, unstretching role, but work all the same. In this strange town, with its carved gables, towers, and soundless transport, she felt in Sir Veronal a sea change, fresh energy, but with it intense frustration and what struck her as an adolescent-like lack of self-knowledge. She concluded that despite the lavish investment, Sir Veronal did not yet know why he was here. Outside, the planting had been completed in advance of the first frost. Only the finer touches awaited the spring. She watched her fictional husband and son return across the lawn, her bedroom lights off, peering from behind the curtain. She knew from Sir Veronal's stride that something of moment had occurred. A dangerous but invigorating impulse seized her, the desire to investigate. She changed in the dark, opened the window, and shinned down the drainpipe. She had a key to the postern gate, and the security cameras were not yet operational. The pair's footprints, as if painted green on a shiny white paper, brought her to the Golden Mean and baubles and relics. Excitement gripped her, the thrill of going off script. She returned little the wiser, but intrigued. Something in this shop of eccentric curios had aroused Sir Veronal's interest. She decided to keep eyes and ears open. Might not Rotherweird redefine her role? If Sir Veronal's character was growing richer under the town's influence, why not hers? 2. Oblong's discovery. The following night, the snow returned, and Oblong had supper with the Fangwins. Although they had been introduced by first names, Oblong continued to call Fangwin Fangwin, and vice versa. This was the way in Rotherweird. Fangwin insisted on calling his wife Bomber, whether in reference to her generous dimensions or her frank way of speaking. Oblong considered it indelicate to ask. She had skin as white as flour and hair as black as coal. To accentuate the contrast, she wore bright red lipstick. With large, warm eyes and an earthy, combative spirit, she was instantly likable, despite the forbidding effect of her coloring. She had a gift for drawing people out of themselves. "Damn fine risotto, Bomber," trumpeted Fangwin, having finished well before his wife and guest. She taught cooking, but they terminated her employment with mine for encouraging Flask in his investigations when I wasn't. As Fangwin had given him Flask's notebook, Oblong was skeptical about this denial, but anxious that it might be dangerous ground for an outsider. He timidly broached a different subject. "This town is packed with clever people. I am unclear why you elected Mr. Snorkel as mayor when he's—" "A reptile?" suggested Fangwin. "Surely a toad," Bomber countered. "He rakes off squillions. Meet his wife and you'll understand why." Fangwin paced the room. "It's a good question. I'm not sure we ever did elect him. He just sort of happened, just as his father did, and his grandfather before that. But we could unelect him, and we don't even try." Fangwin acknowledged Bomber's point before continuing. "It's practicalities. Rubbish disposal, water supply." Bye. "It's practicalities. Rubbish disposal, water supply, clean pavements. Plus, we all think ourselves so clever we'd never agree on anything." "You've missed the big one," said Bomber. "Snorkel keeps us from our past. Our independence depends on not investigating it. Snorkel knows how difficult that is. He allows the traditional festivals, but goes for anyone who pries too deep." "Like Flask," said Oblong. "Like him," added Bomber, wagging a finger at her husband. Emboldened by her candor, Oblong blurted out and instantly regretted. "If it's so dangerous, why give me his notebook?" "You're a blithering idiot, Godfrey Fangwin. You'll be the end of us all. First it's Flask's job, then yours, then mine, now his." "I'm a biologist," Fangwin protested. "I want to know why we are what we are. Why have we so many gifted people? Why are we alone in England left to our own devices?" Bomber turned to Oblong. "If you have any sense, destroy that notebook." And with that warning, the conversation moved to more mundane topics before Oblong said his farewells and headed home. Under fresh snow, the towers looked forbidding. Fingers with whitened nails pointing skywards, windowsills standing out like knuckles. In the narrow but unusually straight Lost Acre Lane, a childish impulse seized him. He had to throw a snowball. He needed the fresh snow, aimed at the street sign, and missed. He stooped to make another, only to hear a light thump from the roof behind him. He came up slowly from his stooping position, but Lost Acre Lane was empty in both directions. He walked to the next narrow lane, Groveway, equally empty. A second light thump and a crunching noise followed, still above his head. He feared a mischievous child had been lured onto the roofs by the snowfall, and that he would have to play rescuer in a landscape of slippery slates. He cried, "Hello?" in both directions, and to his astonishment, a long, thin pole appeared over the roofline, held by a slight figure who planted it on the sloping tiles. The pole bent almost double, then slowly, crazily unwound. Airborne, the figure became a creature of grace, apparently flying to the roof directly above Oblong's head. A balaclava masked the face. "Now look here," he shouted. The figure vaulted back, delivering a perfectly aimed snowball in midair, flush on Oblong's upturned forehead. The impact, the residual effects of the evening's hospitality, and his natural clumsiness did the rest. Oblong fell heavily backwards. By the time he was back on his feet, the vaulter had gone. Dazed, the letters of the street sign slipped and slid in front of his eyes. Lost Acre Lane. Lost Acre. Lost Acre. And then he saw it. Lost Acre. Stole car. Flask had used a simple anagram. But what had he found in Lost Acre Lane? What of the letters and numbers beneath? ASC 1017? If he were right, they had nothing to do with the car at all, while being too high for a house number. The letters seemed random, nor could he see anything unusual about Lost Acre Lane. He wended his way back to his lodgings. With a cup of coffee and a spoonful of lad's whiskey to sharpen the wits, he sat and racked his brain for an hour, but without success. As he resealed the diary, he felt the edge of loneliness. The Fangwins had entertained him generously, but they did not offer the joshing camaraderie of a contemporary. Gregorius Jones came closest, crying, "Hi, Obers," whenever their paths crossed, and joining him from time to time at the journeyman's gist. Yet John's hearty exterior hid an impenetrable reserve whenever any subject of substance threatened. Fangwin's account of Joan's origins suggested a personal tragedy buried deep. At least he could now add to his list of close encounters by the mysterious vaulter to listen for Jones or any other man. Last but not least, he could not escape Flask. He felt a failure in comparison. Flask had fought for his subject, penetrated the defenses of the locals, and befriended them. He had uncovered the past too, his findings presumably recorded in the missing pages of his notebook. He decided that he owed it to Flask to keep an eye out for further leads, and to the Fangwins to do so very discreetly. Several blocks away, leaning on a chimney, Valorhand watched the burning light at Oblong's window. Rotherweird's roofscape was her alternative universe. She knew the takeoffs, the landings, and the sightlines. She would never have thrown a snowball at Oblong's predecessor. Unlike the callow Oblong, Flask had presence. And here's the Lost Acre Lane sign in the snow. Three. Hayman Salt's discovery. Hayman Salt had not been back to Baubles and Relics since his sale of the stones, although he occasionally sidled past to see whether they remained in the window. He welcomed adverse weather. Without it, he could not risk a visit to Lost Acre, his private fiefdom, his great and special secret. A leaden evening sky threatening snow came a close second to fog and clearing possible observers. He wore a cape with a black hood and carried no provisions beyond his whiskey flask, his idea of panacea. Rotherweird's one cobbled road ran from the two gatehouse bridges into the surrounding hills, but there were older, less conspicuous paths. Salt crossed the wooden footbridge at the southwestern corner of the island field before plunging into a tangle of branches between two pastures. Here the snow had fallen more heavily. Drifts had formed in the hollows of the exposed northern and eastern slopes, but the landscape's loss of profile did not hinder him. Every tree remained distinctive to his botanist's eye, as good as a signpost. He elbowed and kicked his way through dense undergrowth into an open space with a sunken road beyond. Over the centuries, sheep, cattle, and human feet had worn away the topsoil. The sides of the road were steep, the earth dark, peaty, and rich. Salt walked on until he reached the basin of a large bowl with a circle of ancient beeches on its rim. In the center of this hollow, little affected by snow thanks to the canopy above, Salt scuffed away the dead leaves to reveal a white marble tablet, a meter square, and incised with a single flower. He stood on it and disappeared like a flicker of old film. He felt the familiar rush of head to feet, but uniquely, his instant arrival in Lost Acre was not painless. He sank to his knees, grimacing, joints wrenched, eyeballs smarting, air squeezed from the lungs and ears buzzing with tinnitus. Instinctively, he checked the tile, which was intact. There must be some disturbance to the forces that powered it. He slowly raised himself to standing. No snow here. The night sky sparkled with a crystalline quality undiluted by artificial light. The constellations were inverted in comparison to Rotherweird, but otherwise true to Rotherweird's time and season. Salt took deep satisfaction in being the only human visitor, Lost Acre's sole guardian and explorer. He had in fact quickly moderated the latter role in the interests of self-preservation, now keeping to a square mile of grassland from the white tile to the stream below. Lost Acre's fauna mixed and matched, blossom with teeth, finned animals, bird-winged butterflies. Many of these freaks had proved to be both carnivorous and hostile. Salt had yet to discover the cause for this bizarre intermarriage of life forms, but the consequential dangers were clear. He had once ventured over the stream to the outer margins of the forest, only to be snared in thread-like wire and attacked by a creature so monstrous that its features still haunted his dreams. On another occasion, he had climbed high into the rocky uplands on Lost Acre's misty rim, until predatory birds had driven him down. In this chosen area of relative safety, he mapped the ground botanically, lifting what he needed for his cultivars back home. Salt had not been in for more than a month, not since his discovery of the mysterious stones. Tonight he had come for the snowdrop bulbs, with their distinctive yellow-purple spots around the neck of the flower, which would appear in Rotherweird as Hemans galanthus. He had already harvested Hemans trochai, source of his present to Aurelia rock. Here both species were now inexplicably flowering out of season. He used a small crystal light, anxious that a more conspicuous lantern might attract unwanted visitors, and worked away with his trowel, careful not to harm the colony's potential for further expansion. Before long, Salt became uneasy. The grass had grown unnaturally tall when it should be dying back. He even found stalks reflowering among unusually heavy seed heads. He kept his gloves on. Winged seeds from the forest were everywhere, far from their natural habitat. Some burrowed when disturbed, others snapped or flew away. He wondered whether Lost Acre's capacity for cellular rearrangement had brought with it a structural instability. Within 10 yards of the tile, he found the first clutch of eggs, stippled brown and yellow, but near transparent. From what he could make of the embryonic creatures inside, they were winged. In 6 years of visits, Salt had never found a single nest in the grass, but it now appeared that the avian life forms had abandoned their traditional nesting sites in the forest. Yet Salt could see no sign of earthquake, storm, or drought. The earth felt no different. The silhouettes of the trees below appeared unchanged. He concluded that these behavioral changes did not reflect past disturbance, but rather apprehension of some future threat. His concerns did not end there. He had found the stones nestling together within a few yards of the white tile, where he could not fail to find them. He had never encountered a malignant object before. To an atheist with no belief in the supernatural, the sensation had been inexplicable. He already regretted the sale, feeling he had been manipulated into bringing the stones to Rotherweird. If that was right, some other human either lived in Lost Acre or traveled there from Rotherweird and had him under observation. These anxieties provoked Salt to break a golden rule. Bagging his bulbs and pocketing his trowel, It set off across the grassland, leaving old frontiers behind. The grass snagged at his waist, occasional tree seeds snapping at his heavy trousers, but he strode on, noting another disturbing oddity. The forest, normally a chorus of squawks, howls, and warbles, stood mute as stone. An easterly wind got up. The swaying grass and the moonstruck seed heads conjured an impression of sea foam. Salt, the swimmer, sometimes with the current and sometimes against it. In the scissory swish, Salt thought he heard a hissy mumbling in Latin. Et quis est, et quis est. And who is this? As a botanist, he kept up his Latin, having excelled in the subject at Rotherweird school. Latin made the curriculum for its contribution to scientific treatise and linguistic logic, not for any doors it might open to the past, which were kept firmly shut. Salt, saying nothing untoward, dismissed the words as a trick of the wind and hurried on. He reached the extraordinary tree some 20 minutes later. It was large and squat in the bole, its two dominant bare upper branches stretched out, splay-fingered like a haunting ghost in a child's cartoon. Beneath the highest branch on the forest side, a patch of sky disobeyed the laws of physics, blocking out the starlight, all a shimmer, but dark as water in a deep well. Salt instinctively suspected a kinship between this phenomenon and the stones. Moving closer, he tripped over an iron bar encrusted with rust, with what looked like a scooped cup near the protruding end. He disengaged it from the grass, again getting that sense of a malignant presence. A jumbled Christian motif came to him, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Part of Lost Acres' appeal had been its freedom from any moral compass, a place whose inhabitants lived by the laws of nature, a choiceless universe. But an iron bar required hands, a furnace, mined materials, a designing intelligence, and a purpose. Only the corrosion gave comfort. The bar had been cast long ago. Salt froze. A stop-start movement in the grass, following his route from the white tile, looked too measured for the wind, more like a creature of stealth stalking him. He tested the bar as a defensive weapon, only for it to snap like a biscuit. He peered hard. The twitching shadow play suggested a sizable animal, the speed and decisive line a good sense of smell or sharp sight, or both. Another Latin word hissed from the sward. Nuntium habemus. We have a messenger. Salt realized he would not outrun his pursuer, and anyway, flight would suggest he saw himself as a victim, a sure way he suspected of becoming one, so better to make a positive gesture without obvious hostility. He shook the light to a fierce glow and held it aloft. Neither quadruped nor biped, neither a human nor a weasel, the creature that stood up to face Salt presented an uncanny mix of the two. Animal in the pinched snout, the fur, the pricked ears, and the predatory teeth. Human in the eyes, hands, other than the clawed nails. The intelligence of the gaze, the pinkish patches of skin between the russet hair and the rough leather clothing. It held a spear, well balanced for throwing as well as thrust. Salt had often wondered how Lost Acres species, all of them hybrids, mixed and matched, and whether as a human he might be vulnerable to mutation. To these conundra he now added a new question: accident or design? Sum ferox, said the weasel man. The creature's composite nature might not have shocked Salt, but its use of classical Latin did. What had the human half been to have that first language? All the same, a name well chosen, thought Salt. Even though the creature held the spear upright, more on guard than the offensive, the face could not have been more predatory. Hey, Salt. To his amazement, the weasel man shifted effortlessly into English. We need help, said Ferox. There will be great turbulence. Why? Seculum. Salt examined the creature's face. He saw cruelty and guile, but also anxiety. Seculum? You mean a cycle. That explains. Salt gestured to the seed heads in the meadow. Someone must go from here to there at the right time. Salt wondered if he had misheard. Ripe or right? He had no chance to inquire, for Ferox suddenly shouted, his head whipping round to face the forest. Fujite! Salt needed no encouragement. Luminous discs were emerging from the forest. Ferox seized Salt's crystal light and pointed back towards the tile, the path still visible like the wake of a ship. Salt understood. I'll draw them off. You go. As he ran, a glowing fungal disc flew past his head, offering a glimpse of recessed eyes and a thin crescent of shark-like teeth. Seculum! Bellowed Ferox after him by way of a final reminder, but Salt did not look back until he was well away. He could see the weasel man fending off the attacking fungi with a warrior's grace, spinning and ducking, the spear dancing around his waist and head. With each successful strike, a light went out. His journey back was even more painful than his journey there. He sank to his knees and groaned. Usually the tile quickly recharged. Unsettled, he waited and tried again, but the tile did not respond. It was feeling uncharacteristically lifeless to the touch. The door had closed behind him. Seculum. Short intermission, this is Ferox. Yep, that page. He paced the clearing, raging in the dark as snow continued to fall. He resorted to the only solace to hand, his whiskey flask, swigging deeper with every new failure. He speculated that the stone's removal might be connected to the closure of the waypoint, even to Lost Acre's cyclical crisis. The theory only made his bad humor worse. Now drunk, he kicked at the tile, connected only with fresh air, and fell on his back, cracking his head. He closed his eyes and let the balm of the cold drift over him. How did you know he'd be here? Asked the first voice, which Salt recognized as Bill Furdy's. A feeling in my bones, replied the second voice. He weighs a ton. He's a fool, said the second, now half familiar. Salt came to as he was swung over someone's shoulder. He groaned. Hat, anything else? Resumed the second voice. Can't see out, replied Ferdy. We'd better get him home quick, said the second. In 20 minutes we'll have a blizzard. Salt, barely conscious, registered the remark and identified the second voice. Ferdy's neighbor, Fernzin, the man with the mysterious ability to predict warmth, frost, rain, and snow hours ahead with uncanny accuracy. Behind his back, countrysiders called him the Rainmaker. Let me be. Quiet. You've caused quite enough trouble already, said Fernzin firmly. From his upside-down position, Salt could make out the old man and his white hair. I didn't ask for your help, cried Salt, and passed out before Fernzin could respond. The Furdy's farm came into view as the snow slackened, rows of hop poles emerging from the gloom like a fleet at anchor. On the hill beyond the farmhouse stood the strange hexagonal tower where Fernzin lived, its position given away in the blanket of snow only by firelight behind the windows. My place, said Ferdy. My wagon does a mean pick-me-up. Not half as mean as mine, replied Fernzin, and I need to talk to him. Bill Ferdy deferred to Fernzin, as he always did, but his tenant's answer to how he had known Salt would be in that particular place, a feeling in the bones, struck him at best as incomplete. He sensed trouble ahead. Fernzin's tower comprised a single room where he thought, studied, exercised, cooked, watched the stars, stored books, slept, washed, and lived. He would descend to the main house when in need of a bath or company. The room had the appearance of an intricate memory test, so cluttered were its contents. 3 sides of the hexagon had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and it was a high ceiling, signed in ornate gilt letters at the top: Natural, Antiquity, and Affairs of Men, various. 2 adjacent walls accommodated a single bed and a contraption that served as a shower. The last wall, opposite the doorway, boasted a generous fireplace, wide and deep, with a wooden mantel carved with grotesques in the best Rotherweird tradition. Round it, like an audience, ranged a long sofa and several high-jack Jacobean chairs with a basket-weave seats. From the ceiling, open to the rafters, hung charts of the heavens, the oceans, and Rotherweird Westwood, the latter liberally marked with the location of rare fauna. Horizontal poles, held aloft by pulleys, held sticks, capes, a beekeeper suit, and a parachute. This miscellany suggested a reclusive polymath with no regard for the history regulations. The fire had an open grate on a stone hearth, its flue coiling along the wall like a snake before disappearing through the roof, whose exterior featured a bewildering mix of solar panels and nesting boxes awaiting the advent of spring. The higher books were accessed by large movable steps with solid sides, not unlike a medieval siege engine in appearance. "Throw him down here," said Fernzin, pulling the sofa up to the fire, "and let's get those outer clothes off." Salt started to sing. "I remember the Duke of Buccleuch. He was taller than me and brighter than you." God save us, what a racket. "Ferdy, get me the black Bodrum Night Razor Special, 3rd shelf up." Ferdy found the tin in a line of other tins, all with remarkable names. A pungent aroma of coffee permeated the room. Fernzin brewed a pot on the fire. "You don't deserve this," he muttered, "but needs must." Ferdy held Salt's head still as the old man poured. The effect was instantaneous. "God save us," spluttered Salt. "It's all right, Bill. Go tell Megan you're back." Fernzin added, "You did well. Odds are you saved his life." As so often, the brewer was impressed by Fernzin's energy. Fernzin's had lived in the hexagonal building as long as Ferdy's had lived on the farm. They would disappear for decades, but a returning Fernzin always had a key to the house. The history regulations prohibited the preservation of family photographs and diaries after the death of their owner, so nobody knew what earlier Fernzins had looked like. His father had known one, and his grandfather another before that. The house had been empty during his childhood, but after his father's death, this Fernzin had turned up. He had never mentioned his ancestors, and Ferdy did not ask. Fernzins had kept certain rules. They never went to town and insisted on complete privacy. Their name, always straight Fernzin, was not to be mentioned by countrysiders in town, and this injunction was religiously obeyed. The Fernzins were their secret, contributing much to the rural community, with their unparalleled knowledge of horticulture, trees, and animal illnesses. This Fernzin taught countryside children arcane subjects not on the school curriculum, with flair. Bill Ferdy hesitated before leaving his friend. He had been wrestling with whether to consult Fernzin about the strange offer made by the late-night visitor to the journeyman's gist. He needed advice, but did not want to trouble the old man. He let it pass. "Where was I?" asked Salt, voice and intonation restored. "You tell me," replied the old man, hanging up their damp outer clothes on racks the other side of the fire, while surreptitiously checking Salt's pockets. Somewhere southish? You can do better than that. Near some beaches. Imagine 2 lines running straight from the end of Old Lee Lane and Lost Acre. Follow them into the country until they meet. Something like that, conceded Salt. You promised me. Nobody goes in. Ever. I only go to check on things. It's unforgivable and highly dangerous. I only got attacked once. Anyway, nobody can be now. Once I got back, the waypoint closed. You sure? Need to put a light on. Salt was now moving into a hangover phase. Of course I'm bloody sure. Salt peered into the cup. What the hell is this? Coffee special enough to shake a sot from his dreams, but sadly it can't cure ingratitude. Salt muttered a near inaudible word of apology. Despite a mild nausea, his mental faculties felt enhanced. Franzine's coffee was clearing his head like balsam. He had an insight. Franzine alone with his books and his objects needed company. You should get a dog. Franzine said nothing. Salt thought of Lost Acre's twisted fauna, birds with snouts, rodents with scales, carnivorous fungi, and a disturbing insight came to him. Franzine the naturalist has no cat and no dog. I say something happened in Lost Acre. Why you won't go back? Why you can't have animals here while you sleep? Franzine flexed his fingers at the fire as if casting a spell, and then changed the subject. Verdi brings news from town. There are strange events. The school historian disappears. The manor reopens. Now an old way closes. Might they be connected? There's another. In Lost Acre, something is seriously wrong. Lost Acre is wrong. It's an abomination. The closing is all for the good. You want Lost Acre to die. Its creatures, its plants. What do you mean, die? The ground was choked with seed. Flyers and crawlers are laying on open ground. There were few pure birds or insects in Lost Acre. The orders mix and match so that one talked to flyers and crawlers. It's all out of season. They must sense cataclysm. I went further than I've ever been and saw. Salt stalled. His selfish desire for secrecy resurfaced. He did not want to share this discovery, even with Franzine. I know what you saw. I don't think so. You saw a patch of slippery sky. I can show you on your map. With irritation, Salt realized Franzine had been through his clothes, but he could hardly protest. Franzine spread out Salt's simple chart on a table. The drawing was competent, the annotations obscure, but Franzine could read them. The T is the tile entry in the grassland. You have no annotations in the woodland because you have not been back, wisely taking my advice. Franzine turned his attention to the irregular lettered shapes interlocking like misshapen Venn diagrams. Plant colonies, weird mixes of our terrestrial species. Your letters approximate to our nearest relative. At a guess, here grass of Parnassus, although in Lost Acre the flowers are red, not white, and the stems are sticky. To Salt's astonishment, Franzine either knew or guessed most of the rest. Having made his point, Franzine resumed. You have not marked the patch of sky or the great tree that stands near it. His voice quavered in a rare show of emotion. It's almost exactly here. He placed a finger at the very edge of the paper. Franzine was right. Salt stuttered. How can you know? You haven't been in for years. That patch of sky has been there for a very long time. At a guess, from the beginning where primordial explosion or collision created Lost Acre. I call it the mixing point. Fernsane's display of knowledge encouraged Salt to greater candor. I met an extraordinary creature, even by Lost Acre standards, half weasel, half human. Ferenzane's face clouded over as if an ancient pain had been dragged to the surface. Ferox, he said. Again, Salt was taken aback, and again he asked the same question. How can you know? Frenzane ignored the question. He let you live. I'd like to know the reason. He asked for help. He kept saying seculum. A cycle, the natural age span of a person or population. Or a place, replied Salt. I have a theory. Rotherweird and Lost Acre are indivisible. This valley has the only way in, and others before us knew, otherwise Lost Acre Lane would not be named Dandelion as it is. Way back, government feared the secret would spread and Lost Acre's monsters might escape, so they gave us independence and banned the study of history. What they didn't know is that Lost Acre is volatile and may self-destruct. What we don't know is what happens to us if it does. We would be better for it. The odd emphasis was accompanied by a lack of conviction in Ferenzane's voice. Not for the first time, Salt sensed the old man was withholding as much as he revealed. Why does Ferox speak Latin? He's older than you could possibly imagine. Ferenzane paused. The mixing point confers great longevity. At a price, he must have said more. We were attacked by creatures from the forest. What sort of creature? The question came with strange urgency. Like the fungi you find in dead trees, only with eyes and teeth.
You turned into a little bit of a robot. What did you say right before that?
We were attacked by creatures from the forest. What sort of creature? The question came with a strange urgency. Like the fungi you find in dead trees, only with eyes and teeth. Frenzane visibly relaxed as Salt remembered something else Ferox had said. Ferox seemed to think I was a messenger. He used the word nuntius. Salt suddenly felt wearier than he ever felt in his life. The last words he heard from Ferenzaine carried a tone of wry amusement. The effects of Black Bodrum Night Razor Special are well established. Instant recovery of consciousness, a short, sharp period of hangover, and 10 minutes of clarity, ending in a deep and restorative slumber. Seconds later, the botanist began to snore. Frenzane poured himself the remains of the coffee. Lost Acre die? And all her creatures with her? Ghosts from the past assailed him. He, Frenzane, had a duty to try. But how when he could not get in? And when the threat, whatever it was, seemed beyond human intervention? He recalled mention long ago of a black tile which did not work. Suppose it opened when the white one closed? He determined to try to find it. As for Ferox, whose messenger did he think Salt was? He could conceive of only one person. But not possible. Surely not. God forbid not. Ferenzane stood up. He liked this weather, his tower cocooned in flakes of frozen moisture. He consulted his skin. The snow would stop in an hour. In 3, the sky would clear. Warmth and thaw were at least 2 days off. This he knew as a fact, not opinion. Where had this gift come from? What had they done to him all those years ago?
You're gonna leave us there? Are you fucking kidding me?
So also, Rotherweird might fucking explode. This might turn into
Funny?
like a fucking action movie. What the hell?
Like,
They've got
Lost Acres may self-destruct.
Oh, sorry.
In 10, 9.
Well, I like how it's like a mix of Mission Impossible and the 100-Acre Wood or something like that.
With weasel people.
With weasel people.
Weeple, if you will.
Weeple.
Weasels?
Weaselple?
Weasels. Wow. Yeah, because it was before this, and not to say it did anything to detract, but it was becoming an interesting tale of a strange town, and then it's like magic.
Yeah.
I told you there was magic.
Yeah. True facts.
True facts.
True facts. Catch up crew, I'm sorry if that whole time the rest of us were talking and making gestures like magic. You couldn't see us because I might have still had Andy spotlighted for everyone and just changed myself back to gallery.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh dang.
Dying.
Andrada, what are you doing on Tuesday?
What I'm doing on Tuesday, I don't know. I'm reading more of this.
If
Looking
you
at all
want
your
to,
faces.
I was gonna ask if you wanna. You're very welcome to.
How far through the book are we?
No, wait, hold on. Better light.
Or like,
Black pages do make that harder.
speak more.
Oh wow, we've done like a tiny sliver of
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a tiny bit because, okay, so we've read 91 pages
Out of how
so
many?
far. Something like 450.
Oh jinx.
No, but that would suggest that we'll need about 5 weeks at 3
Yep, 452.
in the ballpark of the 15 hours you were talking about.
Yeah, so if you want to just like pop in and do it randomly whenever you feel like it. I want to hear the rest of this book and I really like how you read. But if you don't want to because it's a tiring thing that takes effort, I 100% support and respect your boundaries.
It works so much better with tea, and if I remember to drink some of it while I read.
And then we get to see you. Sorry, what was that, Bracken?
Just reading is hard work. Your throat is working all the time, and then you're like, at the end of it, you're like, what the fuck?
I yawn all the time when I'm reading for long times.
Yeah, that can be a thing. There are quite a lot of voices, and I may have forgotten what voice I did for what character, because there are many of them.
Yep.
I think it's mostly consistent over these 3.
Yep.
I think so. Ah, this is such a fun book. I'm still hung up on Lost Acres is gonna self-destruct. Sorry. I was like, wait, where the fuck did that come from?
Okay, so I'm just looking at the Storytime spreadsheet right now, and the 15th and 16th next week are available.
Okay. I can read a bit more.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thanks for making our nerdy hearts happy.
I'm so glad you're enjoying it with me, because it, like, I loved it when I read it, and it's also a lot of fun to read it out loud.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of interesting flow and rhythm in the language of this.
I think I really like
Uh.
the book.
All that alliteration, it made my tongue go funny.
Yeah, I feel like my tongue would be like blah, 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 at the end of that, you know?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sex joke.
Well then, that's what we're doing.
You know, I'm here. This is what I'm gonna do.
I
I
mean,
love you for that.
same.
Yay.
Yeah. I really enjoy the way that the can kind of reflects rainbows back at us as you drink.
Yeah, it all feels extremely German.
Something discotheque or
Das ist Techno-Sex.
yes, the one that we got from Hingme.
The passion fruit one. The passion fruit sour beer.
Very sour.
Look at this little dog. Just licking the shell.
Dog just doing a floof.
Was ist das?
Das ist Techno-Sex.
Ja,
Ja.
das ist etwas.
Is it offensive? I don't.
Oh, little baby. The little baby.
Hi. Hi, Luna.
Mm.
Hi. Yeah.
Fun fact, when we're not on camera and we have a dog with us, I basically just spend most of the time wandering around the house just addressing the dog as the little baby. Hello, little baby. Oh, yes, you are a good little baby. Yes, you are.
And he loves it.
Why would you only do that when not on camera?
I think
A
gradually
good question.
it's more deranged and mutates into a bad Tim Curry impression.
I just let her down, just putting weight on her leg.
That sounds very entertaining.
Hello,
I
little
stand
baby.
by my former comment.
You're adorable. Not like that rude child guest in my hotel that one time. I'm Tim Curry.
Very good.
Ah. And on that note, should we say goodbye to the catch-up crew?
Oh shit, yeah, I catch crew.
The little baby.
Little catch-up crew.
My sweet little catch-up crew.
Oh, this is a.
Aren't you just the little catch-up crew who could?
You're so cute, you little catch-up crew. This is so bad.
May your acres not be about to self-destruct.
Yeah.
And may you not be eaten by with teeth and claws.
That's very, very important.
May you.
I approve this message.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.